We're live. Get that.
I got to do it correct.
Oh yeah.
I need to get my DraftKings code.
This race is giving me PTSD back to Las Vegas because I really like Zane Smith again.
Yep. He was my Paul Menard pick of the week.
And we all know how Texas or Las Vegas went.
Yep.
Lap 4, Zane Smith into the wall.
Unbelievable. I'll be wearing my Zane Smith shirt again today.
Lap 4, Zane Smith into the wall. Oh, shit. There we go. I don't know why that's coming through my speakers. Okay. All right. No, this is I really like the pricing this weekend on DraftKings. And where everything's at. You know, Reddick being down at 10K really makes it fun to actually build these lineups. And you know, we got Gibbs in that mid 8K range. Keselowski. I think you and I are pretty close on where, you know, where we're starting to build these lineups. You know, obviously Larson's the obvious dominator. Your cash lineups, you're starting with Larson. Just stupid numbers on this track type since the start of last season. I hate to say it, you know, like you and I have very contrarian brains when it comes to DFS. And like that's, you know, it's helped us a lot over the years. But like a race like this where, you know, the obvious pick is Larson, you know, start with Larson. You know what my brain does? I'm going to make lineups without Larson. I'm going to like these lineups without Larson. You know, I'm going to, you know, because you can build so like I was just messing around earlier and like you can hit Reddick. I really like Truex this weekend for whatever reason. Truex is really sticking out to me as like a tournament play. But you can get you can load up on the Toyotas. You can go Reddick, you can go Truex, you can go Gibbs, and like I'm just imagining, you know, Phoenix, where you called Gibbs taking the lead early. I could see that happening today at Texas. Like, I don't think it's a guarantee that Kyle Larson dominates the first stage of this race and just dominates the race. We've seen him disappoint so many times after he wins the pole. Now, am I talking out of both sides of my mouth? Absolutely. Because Larson's the play. Like, Larson has a great car. He dominated at Las Vegas. But I don't know if he does it at Texas, and I think there's plenty of opportunity to not go with him or build lineups without him. Like, I'm not going Las Vegas. I was super confident. I think I went like 90-something% Larson. I'm not there this week. I'm going to keep that probably at, you know, the 40 to 50% range when I do my 150 lineups. But, you know, outside of there, I know you and I are both on the same page. Kyle Busch, you know, 9,000, wrecked in practice, did not get a qualifying lap done, starts 35th. You know, do you think there's opportunity there to go against him? And not include him, because
there is.
You know, RCR doesn't have awesome speed, but it is Kyle Busch. He was fast at Vegas, but didn't get the finish.
Yeah, I mean, plus it's Kyle Busch. It seems like something always happens to him, right? So he ends up driving backwards down the track or whatever. Just something always seems to happen to him. So there's definitely opportunity. And I want to go back to your Kyle Larson point, because I just ran 150 lineups in the Fantasy Labs optimizer using just my standard settings. All I did was, you know, change the like the percent variance and the bounce to like 25% each. And then just literally just clicked run 150 and optimize by ceiling. And I'm getting 55% Kyle Larson. So you know, with a little bit of variance, that's about where, you know, I think you said somewhere in the 40 to 50% range on him. That's about where it ended up. And, you know, 50% Tyler Reddick. And then from there, only 34% Kyle Busch was third in terms of ownership. So of the 150 just created from my model. So I mean, Texas has been known to, and I know we're not going to have the tire issues we had in 2022, but even last year without the tire issues, we still had 11 cautions. Like, this race can produce 8, 9, 10 cautions, just because if you get out of the groove a little bit, it's hard to catch it, and you end up in the wall. So
and we saw Johnson wreck too.
Texas is different from Vegas in that regard, where if you get out of the groove in Vegas, you can still catch it and save it. Not so much the case at Texas. So it becomes a little bit easier to have cautions, which creates more variance. So I agree with you. There's definitely opportunity for variance here, and that's the thing. If a caution comes at the right or the wrong time, depending on the way you look at it, and Larson comes to pit and some others stay out, it's harder to pass at Texas than it is at Vegas, because it's more of a one groove. It's kind of two grooves now, but it's more of a one groove. It is lower tire wear, so harder to pass just because you don't get to pass by conserving your tires that much. So, I mean, you still can, like I said, it's just a lot harder to pass at Texas, which means it'll be a lot harder for Kyle Larson to get that track position back if some things happen. So I'm definitely with you there. It's not a 60-70% Kyle Larson type of day.
No. A few other,
but he's still the number one guy.
Yeah, he's still, like, if he goes out and leads 150 laps today, nobody's going to be like, wow, that came out of nowhere. That's just going to be Kyle Larson doing his thing. We're both also on the same page. Like, Reddick is a great play this week, 10K. He arguably, if Larson doesn't have the best card, Reddick has the best card. It should come down to those two today.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some other guys in the conversation, but it's those two. What do you think about a guy like Denny Hamlin? Because I really like him as a kind of contrarian play. Starting 11th, I think he looked decent in practice enough. I think he can surprise win this race. I don't think he's a dominator, but I think he can surprise win this race.
Yeah, definitely think he can win this race.
And I think the hard part is trying to get him into the lineup. You really have to be conscious about what you're doing with that lineup when you put Denny Hamlin in it, if he's not going to dominate, because you still need the dominator then. And
yeah,
it becomes a little more difficult because a lot of builds, I'm starting, Larson Reddick, you're not going to be able to fit in a $10,500.
What are you projecting Denny's ownership for?
I got 24.5.
I have 31%. So if you average ours, it's like 27 or so, which is right at where my perfect percent is at 28.5%. So I don't have any strong feelings about Denny. Obviously, he, I think playing him around what my model says is his perfect percent makes a lot of sense. So if that means you end up overweight or underweight, great. But it sounds like you may just end up neutral on Denny if you play him around his perfect percent based off of the average of mine and Jordan's ownership projections. And I can pull up the Roto Grinders one as well. And 25.5% on the Roto Grinders projections for ownership. So mine might be a little high on ownership, but I do tend to think people like to go a little chalky and use some of the bigger names. And that's built into my ownership model. So that's why I have them, I think, higher than you guys do.
A few other guys, going further down, another guy that I'm landing on quite a bit, and you like him as well. Two of them, actually, Daniel Suarez and Josh Berry. Suarez is really good at this new Texas. They show both Trackhouse cars look good on speed in practice. And at Vegas, they both had good speed as well. Josh Berry, we're still in that era of not fully being able to trust Stuart Haas, I think, because they left such a bad taste in our mouth last year. And a lot of people still remember that, they sucked last year. Chase Briscoe was awful, but here's the thing. Chase Briscoe qualified 5th. They are better than last year. And when it comes to Josh Berry, Childers, his crew chief, went out and tweeted that they love their race car. Obviously Kevin Harvick was always very good at Texas, and that's something you need to consider. At 6,800, qualifying back in 25th, Josh Berry, how high do you think people should get on Josh Berry this week? Because I think we both wrote him up. I know you did. I got your article up here. I'm pretty sure I wrote him up as well. In mine. I should probably remember that, but I'm blanking right now.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Berry is definitely a great tournament play. I think you can use him in cash games.
Yeah,
I
agree.
have his ownership projected right around his perfect percent, but you know, overweight on Josh Berry seems like a great play given how happy he and Childers were with the car. When Rodney Childers tweets something, you listen to it, right? Like it's
Yes.
just one of those things. He's spitting out truth bombs. He's not out here on Twitter BSing people.
Right. He's one of those that definitely tells it like it is. Yeah. So I'm pulling up mine. My core drivers this week: Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez. You know, I consider Suarez right there for cash. And then tournament, I got Reddick, Truex, Gibbs, and then Josh Berry written up as my place. So I think you and I are right there. You know, like I said, we're both on the Zane Smith train as well. Once again this weekend. What do you think of, you know, like a Carson Hocevar as well, down in that price range? Or are you more so gravitating toward Zane Smith because he starts a couple positions worse? He comes at a $400 discount. And there's obviously like Corey LaJoie sitting down there at 5,800. And I don't know. I don't hate Ryan Preece either at 57.
No, I definitely like Hocevar. Hocevar this is a great track type for him. I mean, he won at Texas in the Truck Series last year. Obviously, he starts 18th, I think it is. No, that was the practice time.
16.
He starts 16th. Yeah. So even ahead of Zane. So he'll be even lower owned than Zane, I would think, especially given his practice times were slightly slower than Zane's. Now it's a little weird because Hocevar, I believe, made like an 8-lap run or whatever it was, and then somebody hit the wall, and then he made his 15-lap run. But the fall off between 10 and 15 for him was almost nothing. If you look at his 10 and 15 lap for Hocevar, it's 29.47 for 10 lap and 29.477 for 15 lap. So, he has a pretty consistent car. And so those 10 and 15 lap ones, I think, will be a little misleading. But, his 5 lap was just a few ticks of a hundredths of a second per lap off of his teammate Zane Smith there. So definitely think Hocevar is in play as a contrarian option. Obviously, like I said, he's starting 16th. So he's not going to be super highly optimal, but my model still has his perfect percent above his projected ownership. So I do think he's a play you could go overweight on.
When it comes to Hocevar, sorry, I'm a little sick. He's in my optimal projected lineup. Actually, that's how much my projections like him.
Oh,
so
my projections like Zane more.
Yeah, mine are a little bit low on Zane. That's why I'm like kind of manually adjusting. They're low on Zane and higher on Hocevar, but I think Hocevar is going to be solid. We saw him have speed at Las Vegas. We saw him have speed here at Texas last year. This is where, and I read, during Spire's media availability, it was either him or I'm pretty sure it was Hocevar said they're glad to finally be back to the intermediate tracks because this is where Spire is really going to shine this year. Mm-hmm. And those little sound bites like that, a lot of times these drivers are blowing smoke up your ass, but at the same time, they're telling you some information that you should just tuck in here because, like Childers, when he tweets and says they have a great car, he's giving you information that you can definitely use in these DFS contests.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just kind of messing around here. Like I said, I really like Truex. His fall off was virtually nothing in practice. The best fall off between 5 and 10 lap average was Josh Berry, Martin Truex Jr. Now, part of that is because Truex wasn't super fast in 10 lap average, but it's still something noteworthy there between when you look at these tire fall offs. Reddick was also up there.
He reminds me of Taylor Gray in Xfinity. Taylor Gray, for whatever reason, like in practice, he looked like Truex, like super really good on the long run, but fired off slower. And then you watch the race and Taylor Gray just went straight backward from the drop of the green flag in the Xfinity race.
Love that.
And then came forward on later in long runs. But the problem is, again, Texas doesn't tend to produce as many long runs, and falling straight backward off the start is not good either.
Not good. Yeah. What are we thinking? So like this lineup here, like I said, I'm just messing with it. Reddick, Truex, Gibbs, Kyle Busch, Josh Berry, Carson Hocevar. You can obviously play around with that. You can come down off of Hocevar and grab Zane Smith. Gives you a little bit, $500 to work with. And it actually gets you off of Truex, and you can get up to Blaney, which I think is definitely a contrarian, very good at mile and a half. And there are always like one or two races a year that Blaney and or Logano come out and surprise dominate out of nowhere, because Penske guys are not dominators. They do not dominate races outside of, maybe like a Martinsville or a very short track, except for a couple times. So something like this, I think, is solid if you want to get off of the Larson train. And like, this is quite, you got Zane Smith on there. You're going Gibbs and Reddick, hoping that those two are the dominators. Maybe Blaney comes in and adds a third dominator, and then you got the Kyle Busch chalk. There's enough chalk in here, I think, between Berry, Kyle Busch, but then also the differentiating factor, and Reddick as well, but then also the differentiating factors with the rest. I actually kind of really like this lineup, just to get off of Larson and get on Blaney, who should be a top 5 car. He finished third at Las Vegas. He's always solid on these mile and a halves as far as the Ford camp goes. I
like both forms of that lineup, where you had Truex and Hocevar, and then Blaney and Zane. So yeah, I definitely agree with both of those. You also could have, instead of getting rid of Truex, let's say you put Truex back in for Blaney and Hocevar back in for Zane, you could get off Kyle Busch and jump up to a Ross Chastain or a Christopher Bell.
Yeah.
Now, I think Bell's probably a little too aggressive in that specific lineup. But you could definitely get on to a Ross Chastain. And I think Chastain's got some great upside this weekend.
I agree. And that's just, these are just like the little, I always talk about it every week, just the minor little pivots of one specific race, or one specific lineup, and the little stuff you can do to change it. How confident are you in Ty Gibbs actually leading laps today, as opposed to just running top 5 all day, maybe grabbing, 8 fastest laps, falling back to 5th, and having another Las Vegas style day where, he scored 37 points?
I mean, it's definitely harder with Larson right there starting on pole, right, and Reddick starting 4th. It's definitely not going to be easy, especially knowing how good Kyle Larson is on restarts, but certainly possible. And if he has a better long run car than Larson, then which I don't know if he does or not, right? It's so hard to say with practice times specifically, especially if you're in different groups, etc. So I'm not like super confident that he leads laps today, but it certainly is possible. It's not like where I felt at Phoenix, where I think there's a good chance he overtakes Hamlin right off the start. This is Kyle Larson at mile and a half. So
a
little different.
Yeah. So I know my projections are really high on Ty Gibbs, probably a little too high. Like when I was going through the optimizer earlier, I had to take it down and not temper those expectations a little bit. Are you more comfortable going down to, Alex Bowman or Brad Keselowski in that price range? Obviously, Bubba Wallace is right there, $200 more than Ty Gibbs. Would you rather go there than Gibbs, or come down to a Bowman or Keselowski? Keselowski, I don't know what to think of Keselowski, because I loved him coming into this race weekend. We talked about it on Stacking Denny's. Like, I bet him top 10. I still think he can finish top 10. Do I feel good about it? Not necessarily, because they weren't that fast at Las Vegas. And then he put down, the second fastest lap in practice this weekend, but they didn't do any long runs. They didn't have any confidence in long run speed, which is now concerning to me.
Yeah, that car was all over the place. And that's why he never made more than a 5-lap run. He made like a 6 or 7 lap run, but never got to the 10-lap average. So it's quite concerning. So, I have much more confidence in an Alex Bowman than I do with Brad Keselowski right now. Hemric Motorsports looks good overall, I think. So not too worried about them. Whereas I'm much more worried about, Keselowski and the lack of handling on that car. And like, even if we look at Chris Buescher, right? Like, Chris Buescher wasn't exactly there on practice times either. So
right.
Tough to say.
And Buescher's just not good at Texas. He doesn't have a single top 10 finish here ever. 0 for 14. And, obviously the RFK cars at the end of last season got some speed on these intermediates, but and we only have one race to go off of this year, but neither of them look good at Vegas. And that's sticking to my head quite a bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so what do you think of Chase Elliott this week? Because if you can see, I don't know how clearly you can see this lineup I'm doing right here, but Reddick, Truex, Gibbs, Barry, Priest, Chase Elliott. Obviously, you can get off of Priest and come down to somewhere else. But what do you think of Chase?
He should be fine. I think Chase is going to be a little overinflated coming off of a good week at Martinsville, but that's Martinsville, right? That's one of his better tracks. I just think he's going to be overinflated this week in terms of usage, expectation, price, etc. You look at him, that 5 to 10 lap gap there is huge. What happened between his 5 lap and his 10 lap? Did he come in and pit and then do a long run or what? He only ran 30 laps in practice. So his 30 lap run is consecutive.
Yeah, something happened because they did do a long run, but their times just looked like there's no way he's falling off that much, right? If that's happening, that's concerning as hell.
His 10 lap was, average time was slower than his 15 lap average time. So something must have happened on lap 7, 8, or 9.
He lost it or almost lost it.
That is traffic or something. So we kind of have to discount all of that. But even then, his times were not as good as a Ty Gibbs, just across the board. So I think he's just a tick off of being elite this weekend. So, but that said, his price is also a tick off of being elite, and he starts 24th. So certainly a very usable play.
Speaking of elite, Daniel Hemric priced at 50.
that made me laugh.
I was waiting for the response there. Priced at 5,200 though, starting 38th. Is this a week that we're actually potentially targeting Daniel Hemric? Because I'll be honest, I almost wrote him up as a tournament play, as a punt option. If we get some chaos that allows you to then stack these top guys pretty easily with a lot of salary cap relief there at 5,200 plus. Like I said, he's starting dead last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you have to use Daniel Hemric in DFS. Especially with Texas,
that is such a terrible
it can produce
thought.
Attrition, right? Where things can happen. You're gonna have to use Daniel Hemric in some lineups. It sucks, but you just have to do it.
So we'll go. Let's do a lineup here with Hemric.
I love how you hesitated. Let's do a lineup with Hemric.
Yeah. It doesn't even I can't even properly say it because I hate the guy so much. But number one in this lineup, Daniel Hemric.
I have a Hemric lineup that I just I did the Control F and typed Hemric, and out of the 150 that I just created, the one that's highest in ceiling. Now, I'm not saying this is the top ceiling lineup because my optimizer may not have pulled it because I added so much randomness, but the highest one that it has is Hemric, Larson, Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, and Gilly Gang. Interesting. You could sub Gilly and throw in any of those other, low options, but I just thought that was interesting.
I wish there was $100 more left because you could go down to Zane off of Gilliland and then hit Bubba off of Kez.
Ooh, that would have been
That would,
sweet.
and I don't think. I mean, you can go the. You're really rooting for attrition. I guess. How about this? If you're rooting for attrition with a Hemric lineup, you're probably rooting for attrition with a Harrison Burton as well, who has top 20s in the last 2 Texas races.
Yeah, I like that actually. That's a great call. And that
This
gets you up to Bubba.
Larson, Reddick, Truex, Bubba Wallace, and then you're hoping those guys stay out of the trouble, but then Hemric and Burton,
That's
do
fun.
their thing and don't wreck.
Yeah.
I like that actually.
I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
And Ford's or Penske overall, Burton has that alliance, or Wood Brothers has that alliance or whatever with Penske. Cindric qualified top 10. Blaney looks solid. Logano struggled in qualifying, but maybe we see some speed out of.
If we have to do one more Hemric lineup, there's another good one.
Let me put this one in quick. I like this.
I like that one a lot. So the next Hemric one is even spicier. Well, I shouldn't say even spicier. Like it looks like on paper it looks amazing. And that is Hemric. I know it's loading there for you.
Oh shit! I'll get to these comments in a little bit, guys. I had the wrong thing on here. I didn't see any comments coming in.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't seen a comment yet.
Yeah, my bad. All right, Daniel Hemric,
Larson, Reddick, Blaney.
There we go.
Suarez, Stenhouse.
Ooh. And you know what else you could do off of this? If you didn't want to go Blaney, Hamlin.
Yeah.
I mean, we came into this race saying 4 main guys: Larson, Reddick, Hamlin, Byron. You got 3 of them right there. And if you could still, if you didn't want to go Hamlin, you wanted to go Byron, get off of Stenhouse and come down to a LaJoy or a Zane Smith or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Man, I don't like how good these lineups top end look with Hemric in them.
I know.
I'm afraid I'm going to end up with a ton of Hemric today. And I think I like that.
I think I have his projected ownership at like 17% or something,
which is 16% too high on a regular week. But
not this week.
Yeah, this week, because you just know he's going to somehow fucking miss everything. If there's a wreck, he's going to somehow. He's usually good for like a 30th place finish. So if there's attrition, if there's wrecks, he's going to come in mid-20s, starting 38th, $5,200. You can't not play him. I don't care how slow that car is. I don't care how awful it's been all season. It's just the play at 50. They have him underpriced for what it is, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as DFS players, we just have to take advantage of that and roll with the punches. Even though it hurts our soul to fucking pick him.
Yep.
Suarez and Stenhouse. All right. Locking that one in there. All right, let's get to some comments since I missed them. Larson, Reddick, Elliott, Gibbs, Gilliland, Haley build.
It's basically the build we just made, except instead of either Truex or Blaney, you're using Gibbs. Instead of Keselowski, you're using Elliott, and then you're just using 2 punt options. Whereas we chose, Hemric and Burton or Hemric and Stenhouse.
I guess if I'm doing this, if I have that option, I'm probably not going Gilliland. I'll come up to like a Hocevar or a LaJoy.
Or a Zane Smith.
Yeah, or Zane Smith. Or even a Ryan Priest. I don't hate Ryan Priest this weekend. I hate Ryan Priest every week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But you know what I kind of like? Just looking at this lineup, I understand the upside with Elliott here. Larson, Reddick, Gibbs, Chastain, Stenhouse, Hemric.
Yeah.
You're that close to getting a Stenhouse starting 31st. That could sneak in for somehow a top 10.
I like that a lot.
And
better.
if you didn't want to do if you didn't want to go Larson, Reddick, Gibbs, which is, I mean, that's a little that's risky there. You could come down, grab Kyle Busch, and then go Bubba. Larson, Reddick, Busch, Bubba, Stenhouse, Hemric, which honestly is pretty fucking solid for a cash lineup, I think.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. I want to like Chase Elliott this week. I think he can challenge for a top 10, but I don't know if he gets there. And I'd almost, in tournaments, I'd rather go Chastain, and cash, I'd rather go Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm going to have Elliott exposure, but he's just not fitting well into lineups that I like right now. And from what we've kind of looked at so far. I'm just recording this so I can keep my exposure straight. I do like shout out to DraftKings for finally adding the player exposure. I think they added it last year, maybe early this year, with all your lineups on the app. But did you see my tweet about how you couldn't build golf lineups without going out of the driver list? Why wouldn't you deploy that universally over all sports? I don't get it. This makes no sense to me. Like, oh, here's this new feature. We're only doing it for golf. Okay. Like, why?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Let's see here. There was a question about Stenhouse. Do the slow practice times and overall his slow speed this year in general get you off of him this week?
I'm trying to figure out what practice times were slow.
Yeah, he actually wasn't that slow, was he? 16th and 10 lap average.
Yeah. That 15 lap average obviously is clearly wrong. He's not running 30.3 second lap times. There's something funky in that, right? Like a bad lap or something.
19th in single lap speed.
Yeah. I'm not concerned about him at all. I mean, he's the around top half of the field car.
Starting 31st, priced at 61. Yeah. For some reason, I was thinking he was a little bit slower when I read that, but no, Stenhouse is fine.
Yeah, he looked great to me.
But the only
I shouldn't say great, but like great for a $6,100 driver starting.
Right. Yeah. I don't like how that car hasn't been great this season, but that's kind of the Stenhouse thing, you know. Like last year, he was one of both of our favorites long shot top 10 picks at these 1.5 miles because he can always just somehow sneak one in. I mean, he did it at Texas last year. He did it at Charlotte. It's not like he's going to go up there and run top 10 all day, but he's going to have a chance at the end. If he stays on the lead lap, Stenhouse is going to have the chance. He's on the final restart. He's going to just send it into the turn one. And he's going to have a chance to get top 10. So yeah, I have no concern about Stenhouse. What do you think about Austin Hill this weekend?
I guess there's I don't know if that link's working or not. I guess so. I'm reading Rotoballer, and there's one of those like little blurbs that's like Stenhouse slow at Texas again. So maybe that's where people are seeing that.
It could be. That wasn't written by me, and I don't agree with it. That was like
I was Googling
news
Stenhouse.
article.
I was Googling, or not Googling, but in the Twitter search bar, Stenhouse, just to see if like there was something I was missing from practice notes
Right.
or something. But that
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, like, because we have a team of 5 guys that do the news posts.
Yeah.
And, if we're very, very different in our analysis, it can come back as not like as an overall thing. So, but what do you think about Austin Hill this weekend? He's sucked in pretty much every race he's ran in Cup. He's in RCR equipment, but he is starting 34th. Pivot off of Stenhouse at $100 saving. I'm not going crazy for Austin Hill, but I'm acknowledging the fact that I need some Austin Hill pivot off of Stenhouse just to not go crazy on Stenhouse. But like straight up, if I'm doing just 10 lineups or just doing 20 lineups, I'm not having much Austin Hill. Like,
I mean, Austin Hill's fine, but I'd rather just do $6,000 cheaper and go Ty Dillon, who had almost identical 5-lap time as Austin Hill. 5-lap average is Austin Hill. A little slower 10-lap average, but you get $1,000 cheaper and starting further back.
Do you like the second part of this question? Does he have a higher ceiling than Hemric? I still think Hemric has a higher ceiling.
Austin Hill has a higher finishing position ceiling, but that doesn't translate to a DFS ceiling because Hemric starts 4 spots further back.
Yeah.
So my model has Hemric with the higher DFS ceiling, even though it has Hill with the higher finishing position ceiling.
Yeah. Davey Bama,
the place differential.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, Davey Bama 13. I think you finished like top 3, top 5 in last week's GPP. So good on you. If I remember that right, I'm pretty sure I saw that. Ty Dillon just as good out of a punt. Yeah, right here with you.
I like Ty Dillon.
He's also, he's one of those that, I mean, same car. Both of them colleague. Ty Dillon's also one of those guys where he's just going to go out there, ride around, and avoid the melee. So, thoughts on Christopher Bell? I have strong opinions on Christopher Bell.
Okay, let me hear.
Christopher Bell is on my permanent dead to me list. Like he's forever dead to me. I don't like him at all. I think if he goes out there, he qualified too high this week. I don't see him. I
bet him plus 130 over Truex.
Did you really?
Yeah, I mean he was faster than Truex in practice and starts ahead of Truex.
I think he can finish top 5, but I don't like him in DFS at all.
I agree with you. I don't think I like him in DFS, but I definitely bet him for full race plus 130 over Truex. It's now down to plus 110 over Truex.
He finished 4th here last year. I don't remember what happened because his driver rating was awful. Started 9th, 3rd in stage 1, driver rating is 78.2, and then finished 4th. 3rd here in 2021, obviously before the next gen era. Tire issue, I'm assuming, in 2022.
Yep.
But yeah, DFS wise, Bell starting 3rd. I just don't. You got Larson, you got Gibbs, and you got Reddick all starting up there. I don't see Bell being better than those 3 and dominating. In like maybe if those 3 all hit a patch of oil and wreck, then Bell's the next guy in line to dominate. But not liking Christopher Bell from a DFS perspective. Here's a question: 36 for 36. Who would we choose between the 54 and the 99, or is it worth saving the 54 for later?
54 and 99. I always have to think of the names. So Suarez or Gibbs.
Yep.
I think I'd take Suarez of the 2 this week. I think Gibbs has a lot more usable tracks than Suarez does. Suarez, you're basically looking at road courses, drafting tracks.
Texas, for
Michigan,
whatever reason, he's
Texas,
always been good
Michigan,
at
Texas. I'd have to look, maybe like a Nashville or something. I can't remember, but I feel like he pops up at some kind of track like a Nashville or something, or a Dover.
I want to hedge against myself with Ty Gibbs this week just because I have a bet on him to finish top 5. So I don't want to, I'll go underweight on DFS. So if he does well and finishes top 5, I win that bet. Like,
there you go.
And that's something you and I have talked about extensively, is being in position to hedge with your stuff. Although last week at Martinsville, obviously I was too dumb to do that. I'm still like, I'm excited to watch this race. Don't get me wrong, but I'm still like, NASCAR right now is just like irritating to me because I don't do well when I don't win. It just doesn't do well with me mentally. Texas has produced first-time winners before. Ty Gibbs could be the next. Absolutely. I think, it's been a while since we've actually talked about Ty Gibbs potentially being a winner, but we're right back here. He struggled last week at Martinsville, but Gibbs, I think he has to be in the conversation. Like, and there's a reason, looking at the odds boards this week, it's, Larson, Reddick, Gibbs is probably top 6, top 7 in every single one across all books. So what about the other 100 guys? Can Byron be a sneaky dominator? It's so crazy to me. I feel like a lot of weeks we're just not talking about Byron when the guy has just kicked the shit out of everybody in this next gen car. You know what I mean? But like, we're always talking about the other guys. Yeah, I like Byron this week. He won here at Texas. I think he can get up there. I don't know. Like, if you're building a lineup though this week with Byron on it, let's build a Byron lineup. How about that?
Yep.
Are you going Larson or are you going Reddick because of the Byron $10,800 price?
I don't think it matters. Pick your favorite of the two. You can have Larson lead the early apps and then Byron lead late. That's certainly possible. Or you could have Larson slips up and Reddick leads early and Byron leads late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't really matter. So, both are viable.
Let's you do a Byron lineup and I'll do a Byron lineup. How about that?
Ooh, baby, I like it. I'm gonna cheat and use the ones I already have made. Find one that I like.
I'm doing the exact same thing.
Wow.
Is that a good wow or a bad wow?
It's a wow. I don't know if I like it or hate it. But let's put this in and then figure out maybe how we tweak it or if we do. So it's Larson, Byron, Kyle Busch. Then it is Brad Keselowski, Zane Smith, Ty Dillon.
Interesting. Leaves 500 on the table.
Yeah, so that's, like I've said, we can do something with that. Like if we want to go off Keselowski to a Bubba or a whoever.
I'm with you. I don't know if I love it or hate it.
Yeah.
There's also
I don't like having both Busch and Keselowski because I feel like it captures upside using guys that are more likely to finish inside the top 3 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, so it has that $500, so we can go off of Keselowski onto somebody that, or off of Kyle Busch onto somebody that has that higher upside.
You know where my mind's going right here?
Where?
Which it's a completely different direction, kind of. But my mind's going, come off of Larson, come off of Kez, and go Reddick, Truex.
I just hate using all 50,000. Like that is something I hate doing. I just always hate it. Everybody tries to use all the cap, and those lineups get duplicated to hell.
Yeah.
So like instead of Truex, I'd go instead of Reddick Truex, I would go, Reddick Chastain or something, or Reddick whatever.
Mhm.
That's like how I always try to approach things, because it's like, well, what are the odds Truex is in the optimal lineup? It's about the same as the odds that Ross Chastain's in the optimal lineup, and it's going to be duplicated far less.
It's a valid point. But sticking with this, so if you wanted to go Larson here, if you go up to Bubba, you're using full cap. What about like a Bowman?
Yeah.
Or even, I don't know, Ty Gibbs.
Yep. Both those are all in play. I like the Gibbs play less, just because if you have Larson and Byron, you're counting on them dominating, which takes away from Gibbs. The whole reason you play Gibbs is if he dominates. So I would go to Bubba or Bowman or Keselowski, frankly, in this spot.
And one thing with how spread out do you think fastest laps are going to be today?
I have a solution to this. Take off Kyle Busch as well.
Take off Kyle Busch.
So I'm not trying to ignore your question, but go to Daniel Suarez.
Ooh. Oops.
And now we've got a ton of cap to work with. You can get Hamlin, Blaney, Reddick, right? Like, I like this a lot better than going Kez, Busch. Suarez has the upside of Keselowski and is $1,000 cheaper.
Now, like between this with the 10,005 left, I think do you go Reddick?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's where you come off Dylan or Zane and go somebody more expensive.
If you went Reddick, it leaves you 500. Which then you could go Hocevar, you could go LaJoy.
I was thinking, even if you don't go Reddick, like if you go even cheaper than Reddick, like Ross Chastain, you can come off. I'm just throwing a name out there, or a Chase Elliott or a Truex even. Right now, you can get the Stenhouse from Dylan, for example, or you get to Josh Berry, from Zane. A lot of options with the Byron lineup.
There is.
But it all comes down to right, we started with Keselowski, Busch, and it comes down to okay, do you eat the chalk and play those guys from place differential? But I think there's just nice pivots off of both Keselowski and Busch.
Yeah,
but you absolutely need to nail the upside on those pivots.
Mm-hmm. I'm my expectations for Kyle Busch are about a 15th place finish, which I understand the upside there is him starting 35th, but I'd rather be on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I'd rather go underweight Kyle Busch and try to hit, maybe an alternate Dominator, or like a Bubba Wallace that's going to go top 5. Yep. And hope, Kyle Busch is either as slow as he's been this season, or maybe he runs into an issue again or something, and you're going to eliminate everybody's lineup that has him in it, because if you're allocating $9,000 to a place differential play, you need that place differential play to hit.
Yep.
in DFS.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I the more I'm thinking about it, and even when I was doing my projections and stuff, or when I was looking at running them through the optimizer, like I think it spit out just running 150 lineups. It spit out Kyle Busch like 20 something percent of the time, which was a lot less than what I figured it would starting 35th. So, I think there's definitely room there to kind of be off of Busch this weekend. So you like this one or which one you like the best?
Yeah, I like that Barry one. What if we did this? Take off Chastain and go Bubba Wallace.
You read my mind.
And go from Dylan to Zane, right?
Yep. You read my freaking mind.
There
as much as I like
and I hate using
Chastain
50,000, but this is a heck of a lineup here.
I think this is and this is where we work through it and we land where it needs to be. And if you do I like this a lot.
Yep. Disgusting. That's the lineup, I would use more in high dollar because I don't care about using 50,000 as much in high dollar because it's just fewer duplicates in general. But I still don't love it in a big GPP because that's going to be duplicated to hell. That's almost where I would pivot off Zane onto, I don't know, Harrison Burton or some bullshit,
Right.
somebody way back there. Daniel Hemric.
Couple guys that we haven't talked about here, looking if you wanted to pivot off of Josh Berry here, Eric Jones and Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't like Jimmy Johnson, but I really like Eric Jones this weekend.
I like Eric Jones too. We haven't talked about him.
No. So something like that, if you did want to get off Berry, come up here to Jones. And then I hate this. Daniel Hemric. I think that's the one I'm going to put in here. Because Jones, it's one of those weeks where he hasn't shown a ton of speed outright, but he's still in a Toyota, and this is still his track type. Like Eric Jones is really fucking good at Texas.
Yep.
And if he I was hoping, with his speed and everything that that we'd get some longer odds for him top 10, but it didn't happen. I think it's like plus 250 or something right now, if I remember right. But Eric Jones is definitely another one. That price range is so rich with Josh Berry, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, and then people are going to go toward Johnson there, but just because of his starting position. But then you got even John Hunter Nemechek, who's kind of just survived and challenged for top 20s there, sitting at 6,500, starting 30th. That's an option you can go as well. Yeah. So let's let me see here. Pull up some of my lineups with Byron in it. You want to know what's funny?
What?
So my top projected lineup with Byron in it, all I did was throw it in the optimizer and run it just with Byron locked. It doesn't go Larson. It goes Byron Reddick, Bubba Gibbs, Barry Hemric.
So that's one of those hope Larson doesn't lead early.
Yep.
And then Reddick and Byron are in play. But you really need Gibbs to lead those early laps then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I think
like
the
I
pivot
said,
there would be go off Gibbs and on to Keselowski, and then you just hope Reddick and Byron lead.
Or you could even come off of Barry here, come down to Stenhouse, go off of Gibbs, go to Chastain.
Yeah.
And then if you didn't want to, this lineup's definitely going to be duplicated, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
Come off a Hemric and grab hell, you could even go Kaz Grala, but probably Ty Dillon there. You have any love for Logano this week?
Yes. But it would be on short runs because he didn't have a great long run car.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a good short run, really good short run car. And, he's nice and cheap. $8,800, starts 20th. Like, this is a Logano spot. It just feels like we're overlooking this guy, and he's going to finish 4th on a late restart or two.
A typical, and then Blaney will be right up there as well. Just a typical Penske type of race.
And then, what that means, late restarts means attrition. So it's like Logano, Ty Dillon, or Logano, Hemric, or Logano, Justin Haley, or Kaz Grala, or Austin Hill, those kinds of things, right? Like, that's what it feels like to me, is how we get Logano. Like, he's like positively correlated with these shit boxes.
Yeah. So a lineup like this, when you got Byron, Reddick, Logano, Stenhouse, Zane Smith, do you like Bubba or Ty Gibbs more in there?
Bubba.
And I was just playing there off of going Zane instead of Hemric or Ty Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see here. Yeah, someone commented earlier and said Hemric finished P19 at Vegas. That's just kind of like what he does. Like somehow he fucking ends up top 20. He did that a lot earlier in the year, but now things have kind of evened out and he's not. It basically it was luck. That's all it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got it on the restart, but he started off the season 16th, 18th, 19th. Hemric hasn't finished better than 28 cents. Yeah. And that's where college racing is at, and that's where Daniel Hemric's talent level's at as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are on that Ty Gibbs bet, and I'm glad because that was fun.
Yeah, a lot of us got that Ty Gibbs bet.
And there we go. What do we think of Jones? Just talked about Jones a little bit ago. To me, he's almost seeming like a pivot in that range, despite starting further back, because a lot of people were talking Josh Berry there and then Suarez. And then, of course, you have the Johnson that's going to take some of Jones's ownership as well, just starting further back in 37th, plus Jimmy Johnson, the name. I like Eric Jones a lot this week. Plus that $7,000 price tag is always it's like that weird one where it doesn't always quite fit well into lineups. Like, so.
But what about the guy who finished 6th at Vegas, Noah Gragson?
I haven't talked about him at all.
Yeah.
And if we like Josh Berry, we should like Noah Gragson, right?
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what's funny. I ran that 150 with my projections, made a couple tweaks to some ceilings, and then did the variance and the bounce, and no, Greg's ended up 20% in my 150 lineups.
Really?
Yep. I didn't touch him at all, like in terms of any of the settings with him. Like I raised Byron's ceiling a little bit because I think my projections are too low on Byron. And I lowered Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski's ceilings. Noah Gragson ends up popping at 20%, which is pretty crazy. And Josh Berry's at over 30%. And I raised Eric Jones's ceiling to be slightly higher than Noah Gregson's. And yeah, Eric Jones gets about 24%. So I think there is room in that 7K range to have these guys.
There's a comment by Josh. Certainly a lot of options this week. Yeah, like these mile and a halves have become definitely everything's on the table. Yep. I remember, 2-3 years ago, I would have such a laser focused strategy of my core guys at mile and a halves. And I like, if one of them wrecked, I was going to have a fucking awful week. That's not the case here anymore because of how the racing is on these mile and a halves. We have to open up the floodgates, and you can make a case for not. I'd say the majority of people.
Where's your Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe lineup? Like those are pretty much the only guys that aren't getting any love this week.
Yeah, not there on Cindric or Briscoe at all. Cindric, I have projected for 3.7 points.
Wow.
What about a guy like, speaking of high qualifiers, Michael McDowell starting 13th?
Yeah, he hasn't really been on my radar. He does end up in around 7% of the 150 lineups that I built.
All right. Spading Rowdy too crazy. I like.
Here's the thing. It's not too crazy, but also remember he led a bunch of laps at Vegas on this tire combo.
And like we just went through it, and part of this, and I think part of the reason why my mindset's a little bit low on Kyle Busch this week is a little bit of recency bias. We just went through the short track portion of the schedule. RCR sucks at short tracks. So all of a sudden now we're back to an intermediate. He didn't look amazing in practice. He also wrecked. But I mean, Austin Dillon went out and qualified 15th. That's a sign in the positive direction, I think.
Yeah.
While I do like the strategy of being underweight on Kyle Busch, I couldn't see myself fading him entirely. The upside is there too much. And Kyle Busch, I mean, when we look at even last year, you bring in, you look at all the mile and a halves from the start of last year. I want to say, I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but I want to say that like Busch is legitimate, solid, just in general. Average running position, 6th best.
Yeah.
On mile and a halves. So yeah, I think I wouldn't completely fade Rowdy, but maybe a little underweight.
I like underweight on him just a touch. I mean, I'm projecting 36%. I think Roto Grinders has him projected in that neighborhood.
I'm at 34.
You're at 34, and my optimal says 31.2%. So I like being in that 30% range. You'll be underweight on him, but still have enough of him in case he does have a day that he can have, like at Vegas where he led some laps. And obviously it went south on him at Vegas, but if the bad things didn't happen, he had a top 5 car that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's just one of those, like, I just don't know. I don't have a solid stance on him. I can go either way.
Same.
Here's one. Larson, Byron, Chastain, Suarez, Zane, Stenhouse, HMS, Trackhouse stack.
I think that's basically the lineup we did, except we had like Bubba
and
instead of Suarez, or Bubba instead of Chastain, and Barry instead of Stenhouse or something.
Yeah. And these are I mean, this comment's from 15 minutes ago. So I'm still catching up.
Yeah, exactly.
Truex, Reddick, Kyle Busch, Logano, Gregson, Ty Dillon. What do you think about that? I only see one Dominator on there, and I'm not sure Reddick completely kills this race.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need something to happen to Larson. And then the question is, who leads after that? Because somebody's going to lead. Like, if you're going with this kind of a build, I'd rather
go off Logano and come down to Gibbs.
That's literally what I was going to say. I'd either rather go off Busch or Logano and grab Gibbs to have another potential Dominator.
Yeah, so I like the mindset, but I'd rather here go Gibbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you always got to think about where my Dominator points going, and sure, maybe Reddick leads all the early laps, and you get it that way. But if something happens to Larson, it is kind of likely that Gibbs picks up a lot of those Dominator points.
And at 8,500, he doesn't need to, like, like Larson's starting on pole and being at 11,000. He needs to lead a significant chunk of laps. 8,500 and a top 5 finish out of Ty Gibbs. He doesn't need to lead a ton to get there in the points. So, and be worth it with depending on how the rest of your build goes. So, if I'm doing this, I'm probably coming here off of and grabbing Gibbs instead of Logano. And then, if you wanted to go Hemric off of Ty Dillon, you could, or stick with Ty Dillon.
Yeah, just like one little tweak like that makes me like it more. So when you go, when the comment is, I don't like it, but I don't hate it. Now I like it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Now it's like, okay, this makes sense. I can see this playing out. Mm-hmm. Race theory making sense. Austin Dillon starting 15th. Feels like the week no one plays him and he lucks into the optimal just to make Matt hate him even more. Remember who surprisingly won Texas a few years ago? I still have the shirt. I bought the race win shirt of Austin Dillon.
I will say, so there are 38 drivers, and my 150 only uses 34 drivers. It doesn't have Briscoe, Cindric. Turns out Austin Dillon is one of those. It has 0%. And I don't know who the other is, but I could, here, let me save my lineups and go to the optimizer and see what it says. It looks like John Hunter Nemechek's the other one it doesn't have any exposure to, which surprises me because he starts 30th, but it is what it is. I guess it's because of his $6,500 price tag compared to Harrison Burton at $5,400, and they have a similar range of outcomes per my model.
I don't see myself getting to Austin Dillon. And I typically I like the upside at mile and a halves, and I'm with you in the thought process. I don't think I'm gonna get there this week.
Honestly, I might bump up Austin Dillon just to get that 1% exposure to him or something. Because I can see it. And it's gonna come probably with late restarts and stuff.
I ran 150 lineups just not changing a damn thing with my projections, and he came out at 1%.
Yeah, mine came out at 0, which is why I'm kind of
curious to see
regenerating with a little bit higher ceiling and see what it does. There it is. Now it's at 2%. If I bumped his ceiling up by 5 points.
You know what's funny is I locked in Austin Dillon just to see what the lineups look like, and these are my top 2 projected. Like I said, my projections are high on Gibbs this week, but you could come off of Gibbs and grab Bubba here. Larson, Reddick, Bubba, Suarez, Barry, Austin Dillon.
Makes sense.
Or my highest projected is with Gibbs in there. And then my other one is similar to what my core was earlier. Reddick, Truex, Bubba, Ty Gibbs, Barry, Austin Dillon. Which, if you're going off of that Larson build and no Larson, I think you go Gibbs, Reddick.
Yep.
I'm gonna end up putting this lineup in somewhere.
Yep.
Just to have freaking Austin Dillon. Yeah, Austin Dillon, 16th at Vegas this year. I definitely he's going to be super low owned, and he rightfully should be. And that's, it's not like we're high on Austin Dillon at all. But
right.
In the scenario where he actually lucks into a finish, it's that could be where. What's your favorite lineup with Austin Dillon in it, Nick?
None. But just to have one, let's see. I'm clicking through. I think we can workshop this one. So let's do Larson, Truex, Dillon, and then it's Gregson, Barry, Keselowski that the thing randomly spit out. But I think we can workshop those other 3.
Who was the other
Gregson,
3?
Gregson, Barry, Keselowski.
Okay.
But immediately I'm already okay, we'll go off of Keselowski onto Bubba.
Yep.
And, that's fine right there. You could go off Gregson onto Suarez or something, but you don't even think you have to.
That's where my mind was going. And then going Truex up to Blaney. Or Reddick.
Yeah. I mean, if Larson leads 170 laps, right, you may not need Reddick or Blaney or whatever. Truex could be just fine. I don't hate that lineup as is. But what I think I'd want to do is come off Suarez and go to a punt.
Okay. Oops.
Just punt with Ty Dillon for now. Let's just see what we can get.
2,500.
Now we have 2,500, we can go from Barry to somebody. Or you could put Barry back on.
Okay.
Take off Bubba, and you can do whatever you want with that.
Yeah. Dennis.
Yeah. I do like some Denny.
You could all, if you didn't want to go chalk or Barry there, you could go up and grab Gregson too. Obviously, that's using, but that's using the full. But even like Eric Jones there, if you didn't want to go Barry.
I do like Eric Jones in this kind of a lineup because I think this is a late restart lineup, and what I like even more instead of Denny, I like going Ross Chastain. I can definitely see Denny getting there on late restarts, but I want to see what I can do with Chastain. And now you can go from, a Ty Dillon more to somebody a little more palatable.
Josh Berry.
Yeah. Like, I don't hate this lineup at all.
I like this lineup if Larson does what he did at Vegas.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he just dominates 170 laps or more, I like this lineup. But you need that chaos at the end for Austin Dillon.
I am going to put this lineup in this contest just to have it. Here's what Matt came up with: Larson, Reddick, Bubba, Suarez, Barry, Austin. Which I think that's similar to what we came up with a little bit ago, right?
Yeah. It's just all the plays we like, but in one lineup.
Let's see here. Let's do a Denny lineup that you like. I know we've had a few of them, but we haven't really locked one in yet. Was it the Vegas race where I think it was the Vegas race where a Rotoballer subscriber took down the 100K and just stacked Toyotas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Denny's tough because Larson and Denny just eats up so much.
Yeah. It's kind of like Byron.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm not there on Denny being like one of the best cars. I think there's 5 other cars at least that are better than Denny.
That's an interesting lineup to me.
Yeah, it's fine. If you're gonna go Jones and Barry and Suarez, I'd rather find a way to get off exactly 50K. Because that is going to be duplicated, and you don't want to be duplicating Jones, Barry, Suarez stuff. Like, because you need all 3 of those to be hit and be a miracle. Not necessarily a miracle, but you know what I mean. So I'd rather just be like, well, okay, I'll just come off of Suarez onto somebody or Barry onto somebody else,
What about this? Again, this is nope, never mind.
I detest using 50,000 especially when there's
Oh, what about
pivots
this?
right there.
Hamlin, Reddick, Gibbs, Bubba, Zane Smith, Josh Berry. Obviously, if you want to get off Berry, go somewhere else.
Yep.
Again, you're using all 50,000, but
Yep. Jimmy Johnson instead of Josh Berry.
oh god, I was thinking John Hunter Nemechek.
Yeah, something like that. The problem with Berry pivots, like to go cheaper, is the next 5 right behind him are all kind of disgusting.
Yep.
So then you're pivoting all the way down to Stenhouse, and you're like, well, now I'm leaving 700.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I should do something with that 700.
All right. Got anybody else we want to talk about? Any other comments in here on builds to start with?
A Bowman start.
Bowman. I feel like all of my lineups with Gibbs, I can just pivot to Bowman. But I'm interested to see where you want to go with this here.
Yeah, I mean, if we
Throwing
like
Larson
Bowman,
on there.
yeah, I think if we like Bowman, then we've got to feel pretty good about HMS. So I like Larson. Let's see. Like Bowman's another one where I feel like we're gonna need some restarts for him because I don't think he's just gonna move up to 6th on speed. So if we're gonna need some restarts, I don't mind getting a little different, a little weird with this lineup, and make it feel uncomfortable.
So we're going Hemric and Ty Dillon. Got it.
Well, I was gonna say, so let's go Joey Logano.
Okay.
And then throw in a Tyler Reddick and see what we have left over. I'm just curious. I'm not committing to Tyler Reddick here. 5,900. So like Zane Stenhouse fit right in with that. I kind of like
It's
that.
almost, yeah. So it's and you know what a lot of people are going to do if they land on this? I think they're going to automatically go Kyle Busch instead of coming down to Logano.
Yeah, I agree. This is the pivot off of $50,000 with Logano.
Yeah. And you could also come off of, if you didn't want to go Logano, you go Bubba, which is, more chalky, but
yeah. Like I said, I don't mind getting a little weird and uncomfortable with it. So I like it. I like that lineup.
I actually do. Like, obviously, we're both high on Zane today, and then Stenhouse has the upside.
Yeah.
Reddick and Larson are the top guys this week. And then you have Bowman.
I like that. I hate that I like that.
Oh.
But I like it. I actually like it a lot.
I'm trying to find my damn. Yeah, I'm with you. I like this. Logano. Put that one in there. All Oh shit! Forgot to tweet out my link to my contest. Oops. Do that real quick. Also, what an ad here. What the fuck is this? God. I guys have a dummy lineup in this one right now. Yeah. I don't know why DraftKings loads so slow when I'm streaming. But every time it's painfully slow. Okay. Hamlin, Reddick, Gibbs, Bush, Stenhouse, Gilliland. There's so many ways you can go with these damn lineups. It's fun.
I know. I think that's the only issue with this weekend is there's almost too many ways to go.
Yeah. You have to I don't know, probably pick a lane and just roll with it and hope.
Yep.
That you guessed right.
Yep. That sure is how it feels. And the more I look at it, the more I'm leaning towards the Larson lane.
Yeah.
Just play Larson. You know, you were saying Vegas, you felt it's 70-80% Larson or something. And now I'm starting to be like, man, I kind of just leading off with Larson and just all the options are on the table after Larson.
I think the hard part for me is because I also like Reddick so much, and I feel this isn't any sort of analysis or anything, but I just feel like one of them is going to disappoint the shit out of us today. I don't know who it is, but I feel like because they are both so the obvious guys, I feel like one of them just going to shit the bed.
Yep.
And my luck, it'll be Reddick because I like Reddick a little bit more, and he just fucking killed my non-top 10 bet last week. So he'll dig that knife in even deeper this weekend. Here's a HMS lineup. Larson, Elliott, Bowman, Logano, Berry, Zane, Smith. What would it take to get to Byron in there too?
Every time I see Chase Elliott, though, I just think, why not do Ross?
Yeah.
Ross was so much better in practice. Well, I take that back. Chase Elliott had that weird thing, but Ross had a better 10 lap and then came in because I think somebody crashed and then ran a 15 lap.
I just feel like Ross is I see the upside, but I also feel like his most likely path this race is running 8th to 10th and then finishing 7th and not leading. Whereas the upside with Elliott is he comes across 10th and he gets those 14 place differential points. So I'm with you there.
I think Ross has the upside to win.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I'm feeling very Rossi today, and I don't know why. I'm feeling Trackhouse. Suarez, Ross, Zane if he's in Trackhouse equipment.
I am going to put this lineup here in just for shits and gigs.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm feeling Ross today. I've got a feeling, man. I don't know what it is, but I've got a feeling.
Here's
one. Be terribly wrong.
Andrew came in late. What do we like about Zane today?
Well, his practice times were good. They were solidly inside the top, 15 or 18 or so. His fall off was really low, which was nice. Like, look at his 15 lap average. Zane Smith was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th in 15 lap average. And had really low fall off. And then in 20 lap average had almost no fall off from his 15. So he was faster than Chase Elliott over 20 laps. And just look really consistent. He's 1.5 miles are one of his best track types. He looked really good at Vegas in practice as well, better than his teammates, but then hit the wall on lap 4. So if he avoids hitting the wall on lap 4, I think he's gonna be good. But
and we saw how
I wrote it up in my article. I wrote it up in my article, right? Like, so if you go to my article at fantasylabs.com, it's all right there. He scored a 10th place at Texas's most comparable track, Charlotte, just last year. And that was in even more inferior equipment. That was in the Todd Gilliland ride last year. So, he placed above Josh Berry in 15 lap average. And, Rodney Childers said that was one of the best cars that the number 4 car has brought to a 1.5 mile track in a long time. So if Zane's times are even better than that, and Zane's only $5,500, cheap as hell yeah.
He also just Spire's speed overall at Vegas is kind of another thing there, which you didn't, you hit on. Hocevar and LaJoie looked great at Vegas, and Zane would have been right there.
He also, and we don't know this, but there's times where he'll be in a Trackhouse prepared car and we may have no idea.
Right.
Trackhouse looks good this weekend. Like, real good this weekend. Daniel Suarez threw down some freaking lap averages.
This is going to be a fun race, but I got to hop off of here.
Yeah, I do too. I have Sirius XM NASCAR radio hit at 1:15 p.m. Eastern with Pete Pistone.
Make sure you check that out.
Bets.
What's
Sirius
that
XM,
on?
Sirius XM radio, channel 90. In just about half an hour.
Yep. 30 minutes. Yeah, just under 30 minutes. Either all in on Busch or all out. No,
neither.
I think slightly underweight.
Yeah, that's kind of where I end up.
Yep. I'm going slightly underweight on Busch.
It's right about where I think.
If you want to get aggressive, I'm always on board with getting aggressive and going all out, but would not fully recommend that from a bankroll management perspective. That is yeah. But Nick, thanks for joining me this week. Thanks everybody that tuned in. Hopefully get back on a regular cadence of doing these. I know I was off the grid there for a couple weeks, but stuff happens and you get busy.
It'll be easier for me too, because no basketball now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. We're at that point of the year. Should be a good race this week, and we got Talladega next week. So hopefully you're available to do the live stream next week for Talladega.
I will not be next week. I'm at Long Beach for the race.
Well, skip it.
Watch Kyle Kirkwood try to go back to back.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll be live next week talking Talladega, and of course, make sure you check out Stacking Denny's podcast. I'll pick Nick's brain on Talladega and strategy there. But good luck to everybody. Hopefully we see a good race today at Texas. Already 9 races into the season. We are a quarter of the way through. insane.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
y'all.
Nick.
Yep. See ya.